Hello, this is Yayoi Komiyama from Brain to Belly, and welcome to the Spanglish World Networks on Zingo TV, channel 250 and 251. Please remember to download both the Zingo TV app on the respective app stores on iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. The app is free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, and Fire TV sticks, Roku and Roku sticks, also on all smart TVs 2016 and forward. So, welcome, my first guest on this show, Cindy Gould, my bestie and the founder of Victorious Life, I think, network. Sorry, I don't know which one.
The Victory
There you
Network
go.
and
Victory Network. Yes.
Gold International. We're
Thank
good.
you. Thank you. Yes. So, wow, this is Brain to Belly's first episode, and yes, I'm very excited about it. Here, we'd like to talk about the connection between brain to belly, like my logo suggests. Our brains are one of the most important organs in our body, and it really controls everything. It's like the CPU of a computer, and it controls everything. So, what we feed it is going to affect it, and it also affects our other brain, which is the belly. And that is also another place where um, we need to put more awareness into. So, the connection between the brain and the belly is such an important thing for our health as well. So, Miss Cindy, could you tell us a little bit about your journey with brain to belly, or how that affected you? And if you can share your story, that would be wonderful.
I and thanks for having me. I mean, what a privilege to be on your first
Of course.
show.
Okay.
And it's interesting because I have not thought about this in golly, I don't even remember the last time, years and years, when you say, tell me a little bit about your story. So I'm thinking into when was the first time that I thought, I think something's not awesome about my body. I think that, I'm not, and I'm going to use words that I know a lot of people use and I know a lot of women use, but men as well. I don't think my body's good enough. And I remember being in Utah actually, and imagine, years and bazillions of years ago, I was a little bit darker brown because I'm Hawaiian, but it seems like the more children I had, the lighter the melanin in my skin got. So I was a little darker. Seriously, I mean, like that's a thing, right? I didn't know it was a thing, but I was darker brown. I have you've seen my hair, so each strand of my hair is a ringlet. So I have like this Diana Ross do in Farrah Fawcett Land, Utah. And I remember, like, seriously, and I remember
I,
being like, I don't know, maybe I was 12, like, not kidding, like I'm like 12 years old, and all these girls are, and I'm a gymnast, so I have, I'm athletic body. I've got all this. As a child, I probably had a perfect like athletic body. I didn't see it that way, and I remember starting protein shakes back then,
oh
right?
my gosh.
I know. And then, and thinking, because I'm seeing these little twigologists, these little girls that are like, I mean, they're not, like, you get it, right? I mean,
I get it. I totally get it.
and then I'm thinking, okay, I'm already, having people not be nice to me because of the color of my skin or my hair or whatever, because I'm different. And back then in Utah, our family was the only ethnic family. You know what I mean?
Yes,
The
I
only
totally
difference
get that.
between other families were how blonde their hair was, the
Yes.
shade of blonde. So, I mean, it was so interesting. And I think about that, and then fast forward to then I got really fit, and I'd have babies, and then, like crud with my daughter. My first child, I gained like 80 pounds, but I dropped it like this. I mean, it was like, and I was fit. And fast forward to in my 40s, and this is where my it's really compelling for me. So I was pregnant, surprise, surprise, because I was already a grandma. And I mean, you don't think you're going to get pregnant then. It's kind of like, yeah, I don't need to do anything about this. And boom, and then 6 months into it, I have a miscarriage of my beautiful son Kalani, and I was 6 months pregnant. So that set off this emotional, you know, thing within me, and me not really knowing that,
Yeah.
because and I'm kind of a bloom where you're planted girl, like, okay. And I'm still that way, except I acknowledge things where before I didn't really know, I wasn't even acknowledging it. And,
Yeah.
1 pound turns to 10, turns to into, so on. And we went from working out
Yeah.
at the time, 2 a days at the gym. We'd go like at 4 in the morning or whatever, Gold's Gym. We love Gold's. And then after dinner, right? Yeah, you did.
Yes. I
And,
used
and
to be a gold member.
oh, yeah, like who wasn't, right? When they went out of business, I literally bought one of each of their machines and everything else. Like seriously, and all the weights and all the stuff. But I went from doing that to not really working out, and it wasn't even so much that I was pigging out. It was, and 1 pound turned to 10, turned into
Yeah.
20. And I remember my son Nicholas, who's so wise, and I'd work out and I'd train. Like, I'm not kidding. I'd juice fast, all the things, right, ladies? Like, and then I'd
Yes.
eat one kernel of rice because I'm Hawaiian, like, please. I'd eat one grain of rice, and then boom, 10 pounds. And where does it go? Arms, booty, thighs, right? I mean, pick your poison.
Yes, yes, yes.
And then one day my son says, "Well, mom, that's just sad fat." And I'm like,
Wow.
"Ooh, ooh." And
Yeah.
that's really what set off that. So I released yes to what your question, 100 about 130 pounds. And yay! And I think I'm like within 15 pounds of where I want to be. I don't stress about it, because you've traveled with me. I'm like,
Yes.
we're gonna have crepe cake. Okay, dig in.
Hey, exactly, exactly. No, you can't restrict yourself because that only triggers that want, right?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And like you said, I love that term that you use, the sad fat, because I think many of us have that going on. And it was all, triggered from this, and a lot of our thoughts trigger how we eat and what we eat. And that does affect it for sure.
Well,
Yes.
and what you hold on to. So for me,
Yes.
I had like metabolic syndrome, other things. I went to
Yes.
a doctor. I even went out of the country. I let them tweak my body a little bit so that I could release some weight. And here's the thing. I mean, it doesn't matter if you, to me, if you get weight loss surgery, plastic surgery, you starve, you do whatever. If you don't fix this, because as I think, so I
So I
feel,
feel,
as I
so
feel,
I
so I do,
I
right?
do.
You and I have
Yeah.
the same thing. And
Yep.
as I do, so I have. So if you don't fix this, you're going to feel this, and then you're going to do whatever, whether it's eat the bag of Doritos, whether it's not work out.
Yep.
But what people don't really realize is in your adipose, your fat tissue, your adipose tissue, and in your body fat and in your
Yeah.
body muscle, you retain those memories, those
Yes.
feelings. It's a legit thing. Like, have you ever had like a massage and then all of a sudden you're laughing or you're wanting to cry?
Oh, yeah, lots of times because that releases all of those tensions, right?
Right.
And I'm sure our, viewers can relate to that because if you've had that, you know that experience,
Right.
and that release is just tremendous. Yeah.
And memories and different
Oh,
things.
yeah.
And so when he said, and hey, Tammy, by the way, we have Tammy, our beautiful Tammy.
Yes. Yay,
Yay!
hi.
She's on visiting today. When you release those things, though, if you don't, that's where that sad fat, because
Yes.
during parts of that time, you can't live off of vegetable juice, like I'm serious, and not release
Yeah.
any weight after 2 weeks of being on it. Like that's
Yeah.
like, how does that happen? It's because I'm not releasing the
Yeah,
sadness. Yep, I'm not
yeah.
releasing that stuff. So to your point, the brain to belly,
Yes.
so ingenious for you to come up with that.
Thank you. Well, I mean, it's own from my own experience as well. Like
Mhm.
you said, I can relate to you in that when I was younger, my sister and I were probably the only Asian kids in grade school in San Francisco.
In San
And
Francisco?
yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
because of I think where we lived as well, and we went to a private school. I think it was a
Mm,
Presbyterian school, but we were the only Asians, so people would like look at us, and because we looked different, and of course I always got teased because of my eyes and my
mhm,
nose and all that. So my sister and I both, we it wasn't sad fat, but for me it was more of yeah, maybe it was sad fat. It was that because I didn't belong and people always teased me,
right.
I ate, and I created like an armor
Mhm,
protect
mhm,
myself, and that was my fat armor.
right,
And it was because I didn't want to get hurt
right,
anymore,
right.
because words really are powerful, especially with kids. Oh my gosh, they can be so harsh.
Well, think
and
yeah.
yeah, so that's how I got my fat armor, my armor.
I know
And
it's
yeah, yeah, who knows? I mean, as a kid, that's what you do, that's your survival mechanism.
Mhm,
And so I could totally relate that, when things happen. And of course, the brain to belly thing, that here, until I was able to fix my image of myself
right,
and feeling unworthy for the
mhm,
longest time because of the situation I was put in. So it's a little different from yours, but that was still a sad type of fat. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And
And Tammy said, I love that analogy of fat armor.
oh,
Well,
yeah.
it's armor.
It is armor, and you know
Yeah.
what? And the more and if you look at and I would submit this to everybody listening, look at your body, and if you have extra on there, you know, think into that. Think into, what am I protecting myself, or what am I shielding myself from? And
Yeah.
it's so important to really look, because like you said with words, so words are creative containers of energy. That's all,
Yes.
they're meant to create. And we
Yes.
speak those words, and they're meant to create good, bad,
Yes.
ugly, fat, skinny, not, and it's all of those things. And that's
Yes.
why it's so important, but that we choose those words. And so when you think about it, and I mean, and this is, I didn't think we'd go in this direction of the show, but I'm going to take it there anyway because it's kind of
Sure.
fun.
Yeah.
Well, because our bodies are more than 75% water. And
Yes.
and if you look at Masaru Emoto's work, the
Yes.
scientist from Japan, and his
Yes.
work with water, and taking like jars of water and yelling at it and saying awful words, and watching that jar turn in, after a few days, into black yucky water,
Yeah.
and not putting anything in there other than words, and then taking the same jar and looking at beautiful and yelling, you're so gorgeous, you're so lovely, I'm in crazy about you, that kind of stuff. And then he takes the water and he puts it under, a microscope,
Microscope.
and
Yep.
the difference in it is broken, fragmented, looks like the snowflakes that you cut as kids,
Yes.
if
Yes.
you did as children. And then on the good side, they're just beautiful formed crystals. I mean, you can look it up on the internet. There's pictures all over,
Hmm.
and there's videos on YouTube. What's
Yes.
amazing is the same thing happens with us,
Yes.
and
Very
because
true.
we're that much water, what words are we saying out loud when you stand in the mirror? Oh my gosh, I look so fat, or I'm this, or I'm that. I don't like this, or you stand there and allow yourself to be abused by somebody else, and somebody's
Yes.
yelling at you and screaming, and those words, they land.
They do. They do.
They're like
And they're
sticks
like
all over
daggers.
you, right? They're just
Well,
like that.
I'm like saying daggers.
That's because you're Japanese and you have a katana,
Yes. Yes.
but
That
they
is true.
are in your ninja self, but they are like like that, right? And if that's
Yes,
really
yes,
what happens, and so when
yes,
we allow that, so what would happen if all you do is, you and I both do mirror exercises. So you
yes,
look in the mirror and you tell yourself what a freaking rock star you are, and how magnificent you are, and how crazy in love you are with you, and those
yes,
things. Watch your body, because that's kind of what had to happen for me, right?
yes,
Watch the
likewise.
body
Mhm.
slim down and stay healthier. I mean,
Yes.
because, like
You're sending, well, it's like sending love into your body, right?
you
Instead of, like we always say, when you look in the mirrare, would you say, like sometimes I remember in my past, I would say, "You're so ugly, you're so fat, no one's gonna love you." And saying that, I mean, even saying that now, I'm like, "Oh my god, that's so down and it's
right,
so hurtful," right? I would never say that to my best friend or to my sister or anyone I loved.
right,
And yet I used to say that to myself.
right.
And it astounds me now that I used to say things like that to myself. And when I flipped it and changed it to start saying, you know, I love myself. And that was hard at first. But even just saying, just looking at the parts that I loved. I mean, I remember when I was still struggling a lot, I used to look at my clavicle,
Yeah.
because that was the only part that I could see the bone.
Well,
Yeah, but I was like, "Oh, that's really nice. I really like it here," right? And but that was the part that I could focus on that I could really start loving, and it slowly built up. And like
right.
to your point about the water and how it changes, like sending that love started the I guess the cells or whatever to change, and my whole body started changing a little bit because I was sending love to it instead of hate.
Yep. Yep. You know,
Yeah.
one of the great measurements for me was when I had that really rough year,
Yes.
or maybe year and a half. And with all that loss, and one of my concerns was, okay, if I had an issue with sad fat pre that, I mean, it's and I'm not
Yeah.
dishonoring the miscarriage at 6 months, because I had two sons that I
Yes.
miscarried at 6 months. But regardless of that, when you have a child that's been on this earth for 36 years, it is a little bit different dynamic. And then to just
Yeah.
have it steamroll, to 8 people. So my concern during that year was, and it was like a minute concern. How do I not have that sad fat knock me out again? Right. What was
Yeah.
interesting is that's how I knew that I had really healed through those things, because I've
Yeah.
continued to not just maintain, but to get healthier
Right.
even through that journey. And I'm like, wow,
And
because
yeah.
that's when right? And I was mindful of it. And one thing, this keeps coming up in my spirit, so I'm going to throw it out there to all of our
Yes.
audience. So we stand and we say, you've heard people, we both said it, at different teams, like, I'm fat, right? Oh my gosh, I'm so fat, right? Okay, so I want everybody to consider, Yayoi, I have an arm, you have an arm, we both have arms, we both have legs, we both have feet. Well, we don't stand there and say, I'm arm, because we have an arm. Well,
Right.
adipose tissue, fat, whatever, is an extra. We don't say I'm skin, because I have skin. So why would we say I'm fat instead of
Right.
have fat? And one of the first things that you can do to actually start healing that is to disconnect
Next.
the
Yes.
fact. Instead of
Yes.
I am fat, I have fat,
Have that.
right?
Yes.
And then
Yes.
instead of losing it, because everything we lose, we want to find. You lose your keys, you want to find them. You lose your wallet, you want to find
Yes. Yes. You don't want to
it.
find it again.
Release it. And you
Yes.
can to someone you don't like. I'm just kidding. But you
Well, I don't know.
you can do your Harry Potter thing.
Yes.
I'm just
Yes.
kidding. You release it and
Yes.
thank it for protecting you.
Protecting you.
Like,
Yes,
to your
because it
point of
was.
the
Yeah.
armor, right?
Yep, yep, because it served its purpose,
Yeah.
and I no longer need it for that armor, so say thank you, let it go.
Right.
And like to your point, I mean, I guess, for you, those things helped, those exercises helped you,
Mhm.
to be who you are right now.
Yeah.
And what other techniques did you utilize to help yourself in in those situations?
Well, you know what? I allow myself for one, I don't stuff it. If I'm sad, like
Yes.
I know, like the one time I was in Costco and it was,
Yes.
golly, after my son and my father and my other best friend. I mean, there were like 5 people, right?
Yes.
And my divorce was almost final, or my divorce had just become final. So it was
Yes.
like between that season of August through December, and I'm at Costco Christmas shopping, and it's so habitual, and so I put things in my cart. I literally grabbed this really cool jacket that I knew my son Mana would love, and then I got dark chocolate because my father was all things dark chocolate. So, and then it occurred to me while I'm standing there, oh my gosh, they're not here, right? And instantly in Costco, between all the sample snacks, and everything else, I'm like a floodgate of, like, seriously, I'm not ugly crying, and I'm not loud, but I'm like tears, tears, tears. And I didn't care that I was in Costco. I'm like, you know
Yeah.
what? And I just roll with it. And it's kind of like if you've ever been to Hawaii and you're on the beach and there's not one cloud in the sky and all of a sudden there's rain and it goes away. You're like, where the freak did that come from? And then
Yes.
it's like that instant and it's gone and it's sunny. It was like that. But
It
that's
was
one
a
of
release.
100%. And that
Yeah.
was one of the things that I allow myself to do on purpose. And then the other thing, hey Cindy Carro.
Hey, yay! Hi, Cindy.
But another thing that's so important to me too that I do, that
Yes.
is, I am grateful for everything.
Yes.
And when I say everything, I have Melaleuca toothpaste that has essential oils in it, and I don't buy like from the dollar store, and I'm
Yes.
like stoked. I get up in the morning and I walk around, and I'm so grateful I have heat. I'm grateful I
Yes.
have blankets, and I say blankets, not just one. I'm grateful that I have beds and pillows and
Oh,
whatever
yes.
it is, right? And
Yep.
and I think that's one of the other things too, because wherever
Gratitude.
your focus is, your energy
Yes.
flows. And
Close. Yes.
so I fill my cup with all of that. And here's another thing I'm grateful for. You're going to love this because we had
Yes.
this combo last week when we were in Orlando. Um,
Yes.
I remember when we were younger. Well, I don't know if you ever did this, but I would ask my um, ex-husband, 20 plus years ago, does this make my butt look big? And but I wouldn't want, when I got a booty, I mean, that I'm
Yes.
fine.
Yes.
And it's like inherent. But now, if I asked, if I was married and I asked that, you better tell me yes. What I mean? And back before, it's like, do not tell me yes. And now it's like, oh boy, how do you better tell me yes? I mean, and so I shifted the way that I see certain things.
Yes.
I really, I like in that mirror exercise that we talked about,
Yes. Yes.
love myself. And when
It's
I say that like, yay, Cindy,
yeah.
and that's like important. Like, don't you think? What do you do?
It's so important that you do that. Like every morning, I'm just grateful that I wake up for one thing, right? Every
Yeah,
morning. And then I do I have my morning rituals and I do my victory pose, which is just doing this and say victory because I'm up and I'm going to have a victorious day. And I mean,
indeed.
there are days when I don't feel good about it, but I still do it because it makes me feel better and the energy that I give myself. And
100%.
like you said, the gratitude, because
Yep.
gratitude gives us love. And that love that you infuse into your own body and into your soul can
Mhm.
make a big difference in how you go through the day and how you interact with others throughout the day.
100%.
Because like I live in New York, so I have to go out and I see people in the streets, right? When I'm walking my dog. And I say good morning. Well, when I say good morning, I say good morning when I send them love
Yep.
because
Yep.
when somebody doesn't say good morning and you know that they're in a bad place, I
Yep.
mean, they're grumpy, you could feel the energy.
Yeah.
and I don't want to give people bad energy. I'd rather have people feel good. And some of them will look at me like, oh, maybe she's a little crazy, right? I don't care. I want to feel good about me. I want to spread good energy, good feelings. Like,
Yeah.
I know that if somebody saw me and I say good morning, they smile, they feel good. You
100%.
know, some of them will be like, "Oh, what is she smiling about?" And I'm like, "You know what? If they ask me that, I'll say because I'm alive and I
Yeah.
could still go on."
Yeah.
Right?
100%. Well, I think
Yeah.
that connection is critical. It's like,
Oh,
you and again have had this conversation too. Like if you're at the checkout stand, get off your phone and take a minute to connect with the person
oh
that is
yeah.
giving you their time to check you out, and they're checking out your groceries, and ask them, be sincere about it. Hey, how's your day going?
Yep.
I mean, you were just in Orlando with me, so that's kind of my thing. Do not get
Yes.
on an elevator with Cindy. Like, do not we will be talking, but it's
Yes.
that important, right? Because
Yes,
in
it
that
is.
moment, I get that moment to be with you. And I want to let you know that I'm so happy you're on this earth. And no
Yeah.
matter what's going on in your world, that's how I feel. It's like, let me share that space with you. My responsibility, this is how in Hawaiian you would say kuleana. My responsibility is to love you in that moment.
Yes.
And I get to do that. I get to
Yeah.
do that. There's a
Yeah.
reason. To me, every appointment is a divine appointment. Every
Yes.
moment is a
Yes.
divine moment. So I get to
Yes.
say, so I get to rock that. I get to
Yep.
because I'm aware of it. So because
Yep.
I'm aware of it, like you said, when you say good morning, that person could have just had a major blowout with their spouse and they're beating themselves up. And you say, look, listen to the words you're using. If our words are powerful, creative containers of energy, you're saying good
Good.
morning. This is a
Right.
good morning. You're
Yes.
freaking outside and you're walking your dog. This is a good morning. And
Right.
whatever happened before that, let it go. And
Yep.
if that person is being a jerk and they're toxic, sister, it is time to let
Yes.
that person go.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. I agree. I agree. And my thing is if that can help, if my presence can help someone or my, smile can help someone, that's
Yep.
great. And if
Yep.
it doesn't, that's up to them, right? And
Right.
that's their thing. But like you said, each encounter that we have with a person is
Mhm.
meant to be there. So for me, I mean, I'm not as outgoing as you are, so I'm not going to be like, "Hey, how are you?" But, I would smile and say, "Hi, how are you?" Kind of like that. And my, it's a little different energy, but that's okay.
It's
The
fine.
intentions are still the same. They're good intentions to spread love and joy
Mhm.
because I mean,
Mhm.
I'd rather spread love and joy throughout my day to the people around me instead of, spewing out toxic whatevers because just saying that I get like icky feelings, all over me and I'm
Yeah.
like trying to trying to brush them off, right? But and it's true because when you see some people walking down the street, you could feel that toxic energy coming in. I'm like, "Oop, I'm crossing the street."
Yeah.
Or
Uh,
like you'll
yes.
skip an elevator because you don't wanna be in the elevator with that person.
100%. And to
Yeah.
your point, I mean, as a side note, if ever you get that check in your spirit, do not get on that elevator.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
there's a thing in Hawaii where when you're in the water and you see dolphins and you're swimming with dolphins, if you see them leave that area, look around and see who's in the water with you and you better get out. Because they have like a sensory, right?
Oh, yeah. They
It's
do.
I think that like even what you said, you don't it's really kind of about like what if we all had the attitude of how can I out bless you? How
Yes.
can I out bless you, Tammy? How can I out bless you, Cindy? What can I do? Like I always tell people that are married, do see how you can out bless your spouse.
Oh,
Make it a
yeah.
contest amongst your children. And how can I out bless you? I'm going to do their chore instead. I'm going to do that. I mean, and if we and back to the brain to belly, if our lens and if
Yes.
what we're thinking about is how can I love you, What can I do to serve you? What can I do to make your day better? What is
Yes.
it that I have in my heart, in my head, that I can give you, you know, whether it's a resource, whether it's my time, what can I do? Whether
Yes.
it's that smile in the grocery store or the good morning to, you know, you see some of the same people because you're in New York and you guys all
Yeah.
walk your dogs and you all walk and get groceries. And you guys, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
like, not me, man. I walk to my garage, zoom, zoom, you know. It's, you know,
Yep.
and you do that, but you see some of the same people in the
Oh, yeah.
neighborhood, right?
Yep.
And you know when they're having a good day or bad day because you've lived there for years. So
Yeah.
what does it take to really just, even if you don't say anything, you can
Just send
download
them.
it
Mhm.
and you can send it out through your heart and you
Yes.
can just send them love. And you
Yeah.
can even, you know, send them whatever you feel that they might be needing in that moment,
Right.
you know,
Right.
right?
Exactly. Exactly. And to your point, when you were saying brain to belly, even like you were saying, not don't get it, move away if the dolphins are going away. Your belly is another brain, right?
Percent.
And the phrase trust your gut.
Yep.
It really is. It's your brain kind of telling you in another way to, yeah, trust yourself, trust your instincts, because we tend to society really tends to say, don't trust your gut, more or less. Use your logic more. But it's not the case. Really, when you trust your gut and when you listen to it, your instincts, it makes all the difference in the world. And then you start magnetizing all of the good things.
Yep. Yep.
And, Cindy and I we were in Orlando last week, like we had mentioned earlier. And, yeah, we forget that we have our instincts. And the thing is, when we trust them, magical things were happening for us when we were in Orlando because we were trusting our instincts, and we met people that we didn't think we would be able to meet. For instance, Cindy and I were having a meal together, and right behind me walks one of Cindy's favorite speakers, Pete Vargas.
Oh, Pete Vargas.
Oh my, yes. And she's like, "Oh, it's Pete Vargas." And I turn around and it is. And we were able to say, "Oh, excuse me, can we get a selfie with you?" And it was one of the most exciting things. And then we were able to magnetize it more than once. So we got to see him twice,
Yeah.
basically throughout the whole event. I mean, in a personal level, he was also on stage, but and we were able to get a selfie and let
Yeah.
our presence be known, which is really important because, as you know, proximity is power.
100%.
And just getting that good energy, that positive energy, makes a huge difference. And really, it is, what you think is what you really create, because what you think is how you feel, and how you feel is what you do,
Right.
and what you do is what you have, the actions that you take.
100%.
And really, it's that connection, that harmony of connecting all of this.
Right.
And even with the food, we know when our tummy starts rumbling, and we ate just because our logical brain said, "Oh, we have to eat this at this time," right? Even
Right.
if you're not hungry, or you're thinking, "Well, we're paying for this, so we should eat it." Our bodies are funny in that it reacts to it.
100%. Well, you
Yeah.
know what you're saying too. Okay, so when you think brain to belly, so we have our brain here, and you and I are both brain health coaches too. So,
Yeah, right.
but thank you, Dr. Amen, for that certification, and he's so brilliant. But your brain, we have a brain here, and we know scientifically you have a brain in your gut. What
Yeah.
most people don't know is, I think it's the first thing formed in a fetus. Even is there is a physical brain in your
Yes.
heart. So that's why that
Yes.
scripture, as a
Yes.
man thinketh in his heart, so is he.
Yes.
That's actually what that really means. Most people don't know that, right? And
Yeah.
so if our brain is magnetic, our
Mhm.
thoughts, and if our heart, I'm sorry, our brain is electric and our heart
Yes.
is magnetic, but
Right.
we have three brains that we need to align, right?
Yes. Yes.
Plus your heart,
Yes.
you know, it's so important, again, going back to the water, going back to your,
Yes.
what is it that you're feeding yourself through your eye gates, through your ear gates. What are you
Yes.
listening to? What are you watching? What are you reading? What are you absorbing around
Yes.
you, even environmentally? You
Yes.
know, so like one of the things that you and I both do is we drink every day. What?
Our ketones.
Medical grade or therapeutic grade ketones,
Yeah.
and we do it on purpose, and we supplement because in our environments that we live in, we it's hard to get really nutritious,
Yes.
healthy for you foods that your bodies are going to absorb that nutrition, right?
Yes. Yes.
and and when you do all of those things, even like what I was doing when I still had the sad fat, then
Yes.
you're left to figure out, okay, what else is going on that I'm not
Right.
able to release that fat, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And to your point, I think when we were in Orlando, one day I overslept. Remember that day that I overslept?
Yeah, and you freaked
And I,
out.
yes,
There.
and I rushed down. I got the coffee, but I forgot my ketones that
I
day.
remember.
And oh my God, I have to tell you, that was like the craziest thing. I had a headache all day long.
Mhm.
And even with caffeine, right? So it wasn't the caffeine withdrawal. It was just that, and I felt so not in alignment because I didn't have my ketones that day.
Mhm.
And it really had an effect on me, and I was like, wow, that's just, how important of getting all that water, the nutrients that I need, the things that my body requires to function properly.
100%.
And it's also, having that awareness to know what your body needs.
Right.
And it's really, to start working on yourself to create, the mind, the awareness to
Right.
know what you want, how to create it, and then to let it really just flow through your heart and to your belly
Mhm.
and to the rest of you. Yeah, go ahead.
And when you were talking about earlier different things that we do or different techniques, one of the things that's really important, I feel, is that you really need to check, like what I would say to my grandkids, you better check yourself before you wreck yourself. But but
Yeah.
seriously, check in with yourself and see, okay, what's really going on? Like you said
Yes.
earlier, my stomach is grumbly, whatever. Does that mean I'm hungry? No, but it would start by drinking water. It could be that you're dehydrated,
Yep.
and if you're having a grumpy day or you're having a not beautiful day, then
Yes.
did I get any rest? How much water did I have? For you and me, did I did I drink my ketones? I mean,
Yeah.
did I do my subs? Did I hug anybody today?
Yeah.
Physical touch is important.
Oh,
Even
yes.
if you don't have a human, hug your dog. And if you don't have a dog, hug your plant. If you don't have a plant, hug a pillow. You know what I
I
mean? It's
hug,
kind
I
of
hug
like,
my dog.
I
I
know
hug
you got
my dog.
Maggie,
Yes.
and I
Yes.
have Mufasa. But
Yes.
and I remember like when we started out the conversation and talking about our childhoods, why did I feel that way, or why did you resort to food? And we talk about the armor, but at the end of the
Yes.
day, here's here's something that is really important. People don't realize sometimes that when you're eating, it's because you want control in your life, and you're the person who gets to control what comes in and out of
Yes.
your mouth.
Yes.
And when people aren't, looking, you might eat a salad in front of them and then go, down that bag of Doritos in your bedroom or whatever, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the stories that you and I have both heard that people do,
Yes.
and the shame that's created around some of that behavior
Right.
is so, it's tragic and
Toxic.
heartbreaking.
It's
Right.
toxic.
That is well.
And yeah, it is so sad when I hear that. Like, I hear people say, no, out front with people, I would eat salads, eat healthy. And when I get home, even in the home, I would go into the closet and eat a bag of chips or a bag of cookies. No,
Right.
because they
I
didn't want their family members to know that. And I'm like, oh
can't.
my gosh. And there should be no shame in that. And the fact that food itself is not bad or good.
Right.
We can't label it good or bad.
Right.
It's just food.
Right.
It's what we give the meaning that we give it.
Right.
And like you said, that control thing. Yes, it's that one thing that we can control in our lives when we feel out of control.
Right.
So, we tend to go there, but then really, if you need help with that, know that people like me and Cindy, we're out here to help. We're
Right.
here to, guide you if you need any guidance with that, because you shouldn't be struggling alone with something like that.
Sure.
And and I know from my own childhood, um, I was living in two different countries. So of course I wasn't accepted in one country, I wasn't accepted in the other country. So where do I belong? Okay, my parents tried really hard, but they had to adjust to different things as well.
Right.
So I kind of had to fend for myself, right?
Right.
But and I was able to get help from certain people, my guardian angels, as I call them, throughout my life. And without them, I wouldn't have been able to become the person that I became.
Right.
Yes, I did have my share of, instant heartbreaks and toxic relationships and all of that. We all do.
Sure.
But at the end, I realized I want to be happy and I deserve to be happy. So
Mhm.
I'm going to do my best to do what I can to be
Right.
that way.
Right.
And I surround myself with people like Cindy and people like Tammy and the other Cindy that's on here. And,
Yes. Yeah.
Eduardo, people that are going to help me, elevate me, that are going to help me to be the best me that I can be, that'll keep me accountable as well.
And
So,
I
yes,
think people that reflect back to you how beautiful and
yes,
magnificent you are, instead of people that are kind of stuck in their stuff, and they are
yeah,
not going to reflect the best parts of you back to you.
yeah,
I When you asked me earlier what are some of the things I did, one of the things that and I talked about gratitude, and you talk about
yes,
happiness. And yes, like what Tammy said, empowering each other. And it really
yeah,
boils down to love. So what I did when I went through that I'll say incredible season in my life.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
let's just call it that. Well,
yes,
I actually neuroencoded myself. I wired myself to
yes,
default to gratitude and joy. And you know that. I tell people
yes,
I'm a joy catalyst because that's really where I'm at. And what does that mean? So the neurons that wire together, and your brain neurons, they fire off.
yes,
And after years of, like we have this crazy BS that it's your belief system, not the other
yes,
BS.
yes,
And we have this crazy, and who said that your beliefs are right? Like you and I both know you shouldn't believe every stupid thing you think, for
yes.
sure.
Or
And
here.
yeah, and hear and question all of that. Well, what I did was, and what we've learned also through neuroencoding, what we both are neuroencoding
Yes,
specialists, but
specialists. Yes,
what I did was I hardwired myself to always default to gratitude and
yes,
joy. Now,
yes,
what does that mean? Like I shared earlier, if something sad comes up in me, something unresourceful, some thought that isn't going to move the needle forward in my life to a positive
right.
place, I allow myself to look at that. I don't stuff it. And then
Yes,
it's like surfing, right? If you've ever surfed, and I just pivot when that wave comes. And when that happens, I look at it, I pivot, and
yes,
instantly now gratitude and joy, to where I almost get giddy, just it fires off. It's like fires off. And the more that you repeat that, the more that it becomes
yes,
hardwired in your life.
yes,
And and it's not like I have to, I mean, I never really downed a bag of chips or anything. I use it as an example, but I'm not a
right.
sugar person either. I'm more savory. Like, give
Yeah.
me Doritos or chips and salsa and guacamole. I mean,
And I'm the sweet person. So
I know
I'm the
you are.
sweet.
It's perfect when you go to a restaurant. You know what? I
I
mean,
know it is. It is. I'm like dessert first, dessert first.
exactly. Because you might
Um,
be too full to eat the dessert if you eat your dinner first.
yeah.
But
But
I
like
think that's what
the
happens.
repetition, yeah, the repetition and what you repeat is going to start going into your brain, like those beliefs, questioning those beliefs. Were they
Right.
your own thoughts? You were told this number of times by your parents or society,
Right.
and is that really true? And start questioning it, and maybe that's not a true repetition, right? You might
Right.
want to repeat something that's more empowering to you.
Right. Well, and you
So
can say, "Is that really true?" And
yeah,
then you ask yourself again, "Oh, come on. Is that really true?" Like
yeah,
seriously. Because we and then and really be willing to be honest with yourself. You know,
Yes,
come
yeah,
on already. Is that really true? Like, are you
yeah,
serious right now, Yayoi? Is that really true? And be
yeah.
willing to, question that. And okay, and let's say, what if it is true? What if you do blow it and you make a choice that's just straight up stupid? Well, grab
It
the
wa
remote, change yourself from the stupid channel to the smart channel.
exactly,
And
exactly.
it's
I mean,
like,
wipe the slate clean, say, "Okay, I made that stupid mistake, I learned from it,
yes,
and let's move on."
yes,
Because if you start wallowing in that, and we've, all experienced that, you go
sure,
into that spiral, that deep,
right,
dark place, and then you get stuck,
right,
and it's harder and more difficult to get out of it.
right,
And what you want to do is, yes, we're all still human, like Tammy said, and we do make mistakes. So,
right.
you know what? If you make a mistake, okay, learn from it and move on. It was one a little story here. When I was working as an executive, I was actually office manager at one place, and we had water bottles, those huge water bottles that
Yeah.
the guys carry in. Okay, and of course, me being me, figured I could carry one of those.
They're like almost your height, sister.
Yeah, well, yes, I'm very short, and so I was like, "Okay, I could carry that." So I lifted it, and it slipped out of my hand,
Uh,
it fell on the ground, it cracked open, and can you imagine all the water that spread? And this is all caught on security camera, right?
so it's captured for your
Yeah,
posterity to watch.
yes, and so I ended up, like, getting as many rags as I can and cleaning it up, and then I called the maintenance crew to help clean it up and all this and that, and I'm telling my boss, who was the HR person, I said, okay, I had a little accident, I dropped the water bottle and blah, blah, blah," and she goes, "Okay," so she said to me, "What did you learn from that experience?"
Yeah,
And I said that I should get help when I need it.
yeah, yeah,
And you know what? That was like over 10, maybe 20 years ago, close to 20 years ago, right? And I
right,
still remember her saying that because
right,
that was such a great thing to ask me. So,
right,
what do you know now?
right. Well, and those are just opportunities. Like you used the
Yeah.
word mistake earlier, and I think mistake, mistake. You
t-
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to me, those things, those challenges, they're just really golden opportunities for
Yeah.
you to love yourself more and to say, so I spilled some water. Now the floor's clean. Oh well, you know.
It probably got the best cleaning it's got. It was water all over the place. Can you just imagine?
Like, where's the pine sol? You know.
Yeah. It was so funny. I mean, now that I can reflect on it, it's like funny, but at the time I was like, "Oh my god, what am I gonna do?" And I'm, like, on my hands and knees trying to mop it up, and it's, like, nonsense because there's no way you could
Totally,
mop that up.
totally.
Yes, but it
Like a
was a
an
good
I Love
lesson.
Lucy episode. I can see it.
Yes, it was like a Lucy episode where you're stuffing all those, bonbons into your mouth, yeah, from the conveyor belt. Yes,
Love
it's
it,
totally like that.
love
Okay,
it.
so thank you so much for being on this show with us today, Cindy. We had such a wonderful time
Always.
discussing brain to belly and just all these other things that, wow, I'm just so grateful that you were my first guest on my first show, and I'm so excited. And I'm excited to have, many more people on this show to really talk about the connection between the brain and the belly
Yeah.
and the heart, which is another, brain in itself. So,
Mhm.
that whole connection with our bodies. And I think it'll be a wonderful time to discuss. And yeah, this is going to be great. So,
Right.
just wanted to say to everyone, this show can be heard on Spanglish Radio Network. And please check out http colon backslash backslash spanglishworldca.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it.
Love it and
So,
love it. And I'm so
yes,
excited for you.
thank you. And thank you for watching, Tammy and Cindy.
Yes.
Yes, and we're
Girl,
just excited to be here
so
and
good.
to help